So yesterday, Dictator Don posted another video of his administration extrajudicially executing some supposed narco-terrorists. This came only a few hours after the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, called out the Trump administration for basically committing a heinous international crime. A crime that Trump basically admits to here by saying that Venezuelan fishermen are right to be scared that the United States might falsely bomb them.
But we have noticed that there are no ships in the ocean anymore. We're seeing that there's like no ships, when the first one we went, there were hundreds of boats. Now there are no boats. I wonder why. Meaning no drugs are coming across, probably stopping some fishermen too. I mean, to be honest, if I were a fisherman, I wouldn't want to go fishing. Just a nice, let's take a little trip, because I'd say, man, maybe they think I have drugs downstairs. I don't want that. I think the fishing business probably been hurt, but no, there are literally no boats. This was a boat, and we were surprised to see it.
And people are pointing out immediately that this is basically just him admitting that they're targeting fishing boats. Someone said he's always telling on himself. He's literally the worst liar. He just told us that the first boat was a fishing boat. Shake my head. Someone else said, unbelievable. Trump just admitted there are no ships in the ocean anymore because of his drug policies. This isn't leadership. It's dementia babble, confusing fishermen with drug cartels while the world laughs at us, because everybody can see right through this whole narco-terrorist excuse. Immigration lawyer Aaron Reichlin Melnick pointed out a map in which people can see just how ridiculous it is to claim that they're trying to protect America. This red circle is the area where the boat was struck because it was headed from Venezuela to Trinidad. It wasn't even going to the United States. Now, the president of Venezuela is saying that these attacks are an attempt from the Trump administration to start a war in the Caribbean, and I'm one to agree with him. Speaking to reporters in Caracas, the Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro said that the September 2nd attack, which killed 11 people, violated U.S. and international laws. If the United States believed that the drug's passengers were drug traffickers, as American officials have claimed, then they should have been captured, he said. Mr. Maduro called the action a military attack on civilians who were not at war and were not militarily threatening any country, and said the United States was trying to goad Venezuela into a major war. The American goal, Mr. Maduro said, was regime change for oil, not drug interdiction, which the Trump administration has said is a main goal in the region. And what Mr. Maduro is saying seems like the most likely option, given the United States' history with foreign relations in South America. Overthrowing foreign governments for a regime that's more likely to share resources, let's say, is kind of our whole thing. Not long after Maduro spoke, Mr. Trump announced on social media that the U.S. had conducted another strike Monday morning against positively identified extraordinarily violent drug trafficking cartels and narco-terrorists. It's like a Mad Libs of all the scariest words they can choose. Trump went on to admit that there's actually a third boat that the United States struck, but we just don't have footage of that yet.
Narcotics in Venezuela. Narcotics in Venezuela. President Maduro in Venezuela says that you're getting ready to invade his country. What is his message to him?
Well, I would say this right away. Stop sending Tren de Aragua into the United States. Stop sending drugs into the United States. We knocked off actually 3 boats, not 2, but you saw 2. And the problem is there are very few boats out in the water. There are not a lot of boats out in the water. I can't imagine why. Not even fishing boats. There's nobody. Nobody wants to go take a fish. So it's one of those things. But I would say to him very strongly, stop sending people from your prisons into our country. They're sending their prisoners. They've done that already.
Now, a lot of people are pointing out the similarities here between Trump's extrajudicial execution of supposed drug traffickers with ex-Philippine President Duterte, who's under arrest by the ICC for crimes against humanity and the extrajudicial killing of drug traffickers. Now, the ICC apparently doesn't yet have jurisdiction over these strikes. The Atlantic Journal concluded that given the current facts, the ICC is unable to exercise jurisdiction over this strike. This was the first strike on the Venezuela Venezuelan boat. For it to have any jurisdiction over any attacks going forward, there would need to be a confirmed armed conflict and or a widespread or systemic attacks against a civilian population, or evidence of other categories of crimes under the Rome Statute, which the United States signed and then unsigned 2 years later, among other requirements. Now, this was posted before Trump admitted to be disrupting the fishing industry in the area and maybe even striking fishermen, but as of right now, it's kind of up in the air whether or not the ICC has jurisdiction. Regardless, there might be domestic laws that Trump is breaking, and he might be in violation of certain articles under the UN Charter. Article 2, Section 4 of the UN Charter says that countries can resort to force when under attack and deploying their military in self-defense. Trump has previously accused the Tren de Aragua cartel of conducting irregular warfare against the U.S., and the State Department has designated the group a foreign terrorist organization. But Professor Michael Becker of Trinity College Dublin told BBC that the U.S.'s actions stretches the meaning of the term beyond its breaking point. The fact that U.S. officials describe the individuals killed by the U.S. strike as narco-terrorists does not transform them into lawful military targets, he said. The U.S. is not engaged in an armed conflict with Venezuela or the Tren de Aragua criminal organization. Not only does this strike appear to have violated the prohibition on the use of force, it also runs afoul of the right to life under international human rights law. Professor Moffat said that the use of force in this case could amount to an extrajudicial arbitrary killing and a fundamental violation of human rights. Labeling everyone a terrorist does not make them a lawful target and enables states to sidestep international law. It's clear here that Trump doesn't respect law. He doesn't even respect facts and reality. He's claiming to be justified in striking these boats because 300 million people died from drugs last year. 300 million people is the entire population of the United States. I mean, the community note here says that 62 million people died in the entire world in 2024, making it impossible for 300 million people to have died from drug use.
One more on Venezuela. The president of Venezuela called the strike on the boat illegal. Are you concerned that Maduro might escalate something?
No, what's illegal are the drugs that were on the boat and the drugs that are being sent into our country, and the fact that 300 million people died last year from drugs. That's what's illegal.
Do you think he's not telling the truth when he's...
Now, I'm not sure, but it's likely that he meant to say 300,000, referencing the amount of people who died in the opioid crisis during his first term, to which he did nothing, mind you. In fact, even with the Supreme Court rejecting Purdue Pharma's settlement that would have seen the Sackler family get off without being able to be sued in the future, it looks like the worst that'll ever happen to them is them having to give up some of their loot. I don't see Donald Trump dropping airstrikes on their mansion despite over 645,000 people having died from the opioid crisis. It's clear that Trump has no intention of actually fixing the issue of drug addiction in this country. Instead, he just wants a reason to provoke Venezuela into war, in which case we can invade, replace the regime with a more United States-friendly one, and then give American companies access to all of that sweet Venezuelan oil because Trump wants to drill, baby, drill. At what point do we have to say to ourselves, are we the baddies?
Hands. Are we the baddies?
If you guys want to stay up to date on what the real bad guys are up to, then subscribe to Really American. I'm Tony Hinderman, and I'll catch you next time.